Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Book More Show. It's Stuart Bell, and here we've got great guests. I'm really looking forward to talking. We've had a couple of guests recently who have finished their books recently, so I'm more familiar with what they've done with it. But Michael, who we're about to speak to, actually finished a couple of years ago and then has developed a bit since then. So this is going to be a really interesting conversation to see how that book's developed over time. So Michael Nula, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stuart. Good to be here.
Great to have you. So you're a physiotherapist up in Rhode Island. Why don't we start by just sharing with everyone a bit of the Michael Nula story, talk about the practice, where you're based and what you specialize in?
Yeah, I fell into physical therapy really by accident. My last year of high school, I had suffered a really bad knee injury that was misdiagnosed, and I learned
Oh, right.
later that I had torn my patella tendon. And so at that time, I was playing basketball at my school. I had to forfeit the season and spent the entire year in physical therapy. But as they
Wow.
say, one door closes, another opens. I fell into this profession, absolutely just adored it. And everything after that was really about becoming a physical therapist and owning my own practice one day. And
So
then
much.
interestingly, in the middle, I became a high school teacher.
Okay.
Um, and so, but then continued the path to become a physical therapist. So
So in school, there wasn't kind of, you weren't going in with a physiotherapy type, that wasn't the end goal. It was really based on the personal experience that you changed.
that's right. Yeah, had I not gotten hurt and required physical therapy, I don't know that I would have fallen in love with it and sort
Right.
of came to that conclusion that someday this is what I want to do and have my own practice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it really establishes such a strong connection if you've had a personal experience that really kind of anchors everything you're doing, because you almost come to it from the patient's perspective, not from a academic or theoretical perspective, or kind of like the outcome of being in that industry. Your introduction is the exact same introduction that all of the subsequent patients are likely to have.
that's right. And that's probably why at the core, I care deeply about the patient experience, and
Right.
I went, interestingly, when I went through my experience, it wasn't like I was enamored with the experience itself. I fell in love with the profession. And so my takeaway was, well, okay, this is a really cool profession. It helps people. I love helping people. I love science. I love being active and seeing others be active. This is something I want to do. But when I do it, I want to especially make sure the energy I put into is building that patient experience. And
Right.
so fast forward, I started my practice 20 years ago. And then now last year, I just turned over my practice to my longtime business partner, and we brought in a strategic partner, Ivy Rehab Network, which is a world-class network partner. And now that's created the space for me to get into physical therapy, business coaching, and professional development, and also start a physical therapy program here in Rhode Island that in 2 years we'll be opening it up so that we can start to take doctoral students and kind of
Oh, right.
feed the
Fantastic.
marketplace with the new generation of physical therapists.
And that's the talking about a trajectory of a career from the absolute beginnings of just deciding to be in this industry through to specializing and building your practice into selling into part of a bigger organization and now sharing your knowledge both from the coaching perspective and the education perspective. I mean, that's really quite the life cycle. And there must be a lot of lessons that you bring into the coaching because you've had such a strong personal experience of being in the business for an extended period of time through multiple business cycles and multiple changes in the customers' expectations. Um, I'm guessing that we're similar age, so we probably both started pre-internet. Really, I mean, my first job, I think I was saying to someone a couple of weeks ago, I didn't have emails for the first couple of regular jobs that I had. So you must have experienced the same. That customer expectation or their understanding has changed quite a lot over that period.
It has. Yeah. Thankfully, I mean, I did come in probably on the new side of things with websites and email and so forth, but it wasn't what it is now.
Right.
And yeah, I've really lived through every phase of physical therapy private practice. I started with, one clinic and then grew to 13 clinics and 125 employees and did that with a business partner who's also a physical therapist and just amazing experience, but always at the core of it, I'm a teacher at heart, I'm a coach at heart, and I love people and seeing them enjoy a great experience. And that, so now I'm just so passionate about helping, the entire profession that are, trying to continue to grow and develop and refine their businesses in this really complex
Right.
landscape that we're in, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
and it continues to evolve, right?
And at a faster and faster pace, it's very difficult to um, sit back and just relax on something that has worked and not always be thinking, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I'm guessing that's a lot of the experience that you bring to people in the coaching side of things, just because, again, you've seen so many iterations, and moving from one practice to 13 is a significant growth. And I imagine there's the similarity in the delivery of service is going to be there, but running the business is going to be completely different from an individual location to multiple locations. So that experience that you're bringing, it's really going to help them shorten that learning curve from
That
not trial by error, trial by someone else's experience.
That's right. Yeah. And I respect that a lot of times the majority of the attention of the practice owner is just on what's in front of them, right? Trying to get through the day, get through the
Right,
week, what's sort of like the immediate things on fire and creating
right.
pain, right? And so they're just sort of managing present time. But one thing I've learned through the years is the importance of being able to look ahead and project ahead and keep the vision strong for the entire team.
Yeah,
And so bringing external eyes like me with my background, I get excited to kind of meet them where they're at and kind
yeah.
of try to figure out where you're going. And then how can we work together to get there?
It's interesting, the breakthrough blueprint events that we do down in Orlando, the entrepreneur coaching events that we do down there. One of the benefits I say to people is being in the room with 8 other business owners. They're going to talk about their problems, but you've got the benefit of not having their baggage. So it's very difficult to step out of your own, of the fires that are going on, and just look dispassionately at the issues to try and come up with a solution, because consciously or subconsciously all of the fires are still burning, and your kind of view is tainted by that, by the reality of the day to day. So just as for other business owners who are at those events, it's easy for them to offer advice because they're not constrained by the practicalities. And for their own business, they can think about that situation for themselves, and sometimes it sparks things there which they wouldn't necessarily think, having almost exactly the same conversation, but if it was about them individually. So I'm guessing that that's what you see a lot of. You're able to go in there and talk to people things that they really should know or would know if they were giving someone else advice. It's difficult for them to get to that point themselves.
Right. And then the advantage I have is having that kind of separation where I'm not inside their practice day to day
Okay.
like they are. I'm able to review things with them objectively. And I think that's where we're able to be most productive and effective, is by looking at all the facts and what's objective, and kind of take a step back from some of the emotion that also goes
Right.
into running a business today, right? We get frustrated sometimes, we get clouded.
Yeah.
We want things a certain way yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So being able to kind of, just slow things down enough to take a look at where are you and where are you trying to go? And
Yeah.
then just objectively, let's map out some steps and strategies and techniques how to get there.
It kind of reminds me of, so if we talk about the book, so the book was written, was it 2015 originally? I think it was
That sounds
that far
about
back.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking back at some of the files before we were just jumping on the call, and it was interesting to have that initial thought of, oh, that makes sense. And then 2 seconds later have the thought of, oh, actually, it doesn't make sense, because that's now 7 or 8 years ago. And that seems like a long time, where just seeing 2015 doesn't feel like a long time. But one of the things that stood out about what you're talking about now in terms of the coaching and the book as it was originally written. So I'll just grab the cover of it and put it on screen for people who are watching along with the video. So the first step, one of the chapters in the first version was talking about patients experiencing the pain, but then leaving it until it's critical. And then they're in a very different situation of having to deal with the problem when perhaps there's fewer options, or there's more urgency, or the timeframes are more constrained. Just as you were talking about the business coaching, it's actually, there's some parallels there, because quite often the business coaching decisions or the decisions to grow or to stop a problem are sometimes left until they become critical as well. So it's just funny that you were talking in that context. That
Yeah.
stands out from the book as well. Um,
Yeah, this book also was kind of a labor of love in terms of, philosophical approach to taking care of oneself and well-being. And it was this idea of let me get a contribution with my business partner, Jason, out there to just educate society on physical therapy. What is it, because it's come such a long way, right? What
right,
is this beautiful option that's in front of us? What are some things I could think about with how I manage pain today, that I can approach naturally, conservatively, effectively, but then learn things along the way that I can do to maybe minimize or reduce the likelihood of that problem coming back, maybe learn the core of the root cause. So that, that contribution, that's sort of what inspired this work, whatever that was back in 2015. But then now, kind of doing a revision was just to kind of renew this commitment to this approach and wanting to educate society. But then as I'm working with practices around the country, inviting them to reflect on their philosophy and their approach, but more importantly, their outreach and what
right.
they're doing with teaching initiatives in their communities. Because the reality is we still have a lot of people walking around this country and the world for that matter that have painful problems, may not really know what to do to manage them, have a desire to feel better, do better, but don't really know what to do. What's the next step? And we're in this, like we mentioned earlier, really complex world. A lot of information's moving
Yeah.
now, talking about internet. It's at our fingertips, and it's coming at such a rapid pace that it's creating this cognitive flooding among people where they
Isn't
get
it
numb and paralyzed and I don't know what to
right?
do, right? Shouldn't I? And they're stuck in this analysis paralysis. So,
Yeah.
so trying to celebrate the platform and the position, the physical therapy communities in where, we're here to help at the largest level. We're a resource, we're a terminal for society, and, working with practices to help elevate them more so they're loud and proud and available to their communities as a resource to then collaborate with other healthcare professionals, right? And so,
And that's the difference. Like you say, it's no longer a case where the information and the answers is restricted to the professionals. So it's not the case that you can only get a referral from a GP, a family doctor, and you get one choice, and that's the choice. It's no longer that all of the options aren't available for the people who want to go and look for it, but the opportunity to build a relationship with the community so that you're a trusted source of information, you're adding value, improving the quality of life, and then somewhere down the track there's some business transaction that means that it's also profitable to do that. It's such a game changer now, and I think for the next foreseeable future, particularly when you think about things like, I was just catching up on a YouTube video before we jumped on the call talking about ChatGPT 4, like the latest iteration there. We use some of the AI stuff for the podcast transcripts and in the pulling out some of the book. As we're creating some of the books, there's some AI stuff in there.
yeah.
So this idea that there's information and data out there, it has been, the first problem was that people didn't know about it. Then everything was made available. So now, like you're saying, there's a filtering problem. That filtering problem is just going to get worse, where now the creation job gets 100 times easier because it can be done at scale. So to be the organization that's making a personal connection, that's almost getting back to a front gate type approach of a person talking to another person. Yes, there's going to be technological ways of helping that, but sharing your vision, either you yourself or you as in one of the companies that you're helping, sharing that vision, why physiotherapy is important, what difference it can make, what the easy way of getting started is, what things to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
That connection is really going to be the thing that change things.
It's powerful, and and now more than ever, private practices around the globe need to make sure they're continuing to develop and grow their organization so that they're properly positioned and they're properly organized, right? So, with all this, because the society's reaching and searching for solutions to take care of their bodies. There's a lot of energy in longevity medicine, right?
Right.
And recovery, and with this added energy and attention, we're going to see lifespans go even further. We're going to see people being more active longer. So like any fine machine you own and with enough miles on it, it needs tune-ups, it needs repair, it needs
Yeah,
enhancement and TLC. And so what better than, physical therapy to be well positioned to make sure that, again, they're loud and proud and well known and thought of within their communities. But
like I
they're going to
said,
have to
there's such
be
a
organized and positioned, in the ready.
right.
So being able to spot where there might be some hidden dangers or some stops in how some workflows are organized, and the absence of systems or outdated systems and processes, right? Not necessarily technology, but a systematic approach of doing things that
Yeah.
provide the great patient experience, right?
And that's a great point because it does become the baseline for what's required moves over time and gets higher and tougher over time. The technology is making some things easier, but the baseline of just making sure that the fundamentals are taken care of, any problems at that level really become barriers to moving on, and they'll impact the organizations, I think, in an exponential way compared with the past, with fewer clients, a longer turnaround time, less demand, less immediate, the expectation of immediate responsiveness, with all of those not so much there. So when you think family doctor back in the 50s would have a handful of clients, they'd get around to them whenever they got around to them. Maybe someone could go to a neighbor and use a phone to call through, but it might be 2 days later. Now you're expecting to log into a portal and have an immediate response to everything. So not having those systems in place, I imagine, is going to be even more detrimental than it would have been in the past.
That's
So
right.
trying to
Right. And
solve that
then
problem.
that's right. And then recognizing there's certain professional competencies too that we need to manage
Mhm.
today's complex patient and to effectively collaborate with other healthcare providers. So, what are we doing to train our teams? What are we doing to elevate and develop our teams? What are we doing to make sure that we're always developing our mindset and progressing, that we're not still thinking with old ways of thinking and old ideas, but recognizing this world is evolving at a very rapid pace. So we have to remain adaptive to properly meet and quite frankly exceed the needs of today's
Right.
society.
And the
So it's
book is a great.
exciting.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's so much opportunity there. It's really, particularly if you're in an industry that you're passionate about, because then all of this opportunity is just a light that you're drawn towards. It's not a light and it's a train about to run you over. It's kind of exciting. Um, a book has a way of starting that conversation with clients and setting a set of values and delivering something that's kind of all giving. We talk about that quite a lot. It's a way of starting that conversation with adding value. The book itself was originally written more directly for patients to get that message out, and now it's changed a little bit in the latest iteration. Can you talk for a moment about what those early thoughts were? The idea of going from no book to a book. What was that transition? Why pick that as the way of getting in front of people, and what was it you really wanted to share with them in that first version?
Yeah, I wanted something that would help the conversation, like you mentioned earlier, with the general public and also referring providers. The reality is we've got not just doctors referring, but there's nurse practitioners, physician assistants, there's nurse case managers, there's discharge nurses, then there's different administration professionals, right? You have a referral coordinator in some of these offices and healthcare systems. So it's trying to find a way, how can we help the conversation? How can we also put some stable information out there that, here's where physical therapy is now. Not sure where you're at with your know-how on physical therapy, or if you or even know what we're doing these days, or how to get our help, or when it's indicated. But so it's trying to create something that could kind of organize it. And also share our philosophy,
Yeah,
to well-being, that, pain doesn't have to be a way of life. It's interesting, right? Every machine we own, it's our responsibility to figure out, how does it work? right? And
Yeah.
so the body is like that too. So when you have these warning lights on, like pain, you need to know how to address those things. And then a step above now, as I'm working with private practices around the country, it's, what are you doing to address the pain points in your business so that you can serve the patients who are
Right.
coming to you with pain, and then you can effectively manage your team who have their challenges, their issues, right? Their difficult conversations, their obstacles they're trying to overcome.
Yeah. It's interesting that there's a parallel between the patient experience and the business owner experience. I mean, the details are different, but there's definitely a similarity in that journey of kind of, it's almost like the acceptance, not the Deming cycle, and not the 12-step program, but whatever that framework is, that accept it first and then address it and then kind of revisit it afterwards.
Yeah.
One of the groups you were talking about, which is a fun, I'm going to try and remember this one as an example when I'm talking about it in the future. It's this idea of complementary, non-competing businesses. So when I'm talking on strategy calls with people about how to use the book further down the path, then there's obviously new clients that they're using it as a lead generation tool. There's existing clients and using it as referrals. But there's also this idea of complementary, non-competing businesses, and the whole nurse practitioners, the case managers, that whole industry of people who are crossing over with the clients who are perfect, that you can serve the best. So taking a moment to stop and identify who those are and what information that they might find valuable. This is a great example. As I say, I'm going to try and remember this one. For they're doing their day-to-day job. They're not physiotherapists. They've got some awareness, but it might be outdated. So using this as a tool of saying, hey, if you have clients who are experiencing this and they're not getting the benefits from what they're trying, this might be a great path to help them. Was there much acceptance of that? Did that resonate with groups of people? And it's this complementary, non-competing group is one that I feel is always overlooked because
Right.
people don't think about it. So I'm always looking for examples of where people have gone down that route and it's really kind of resonated.
Yeah, we got a ton of positive feedback, not just from the community, as we put this book in hands of patients, but again, referring healthcare providers. The fun part about collaborating with you folks is that it's a short read. It's not a long read, and recognizing that today's professional, especially healthcare professionals, they're on the fly, they're on the move. They don't want some big novel. So
Right.
this provided like a really concise, condensed kind of read, and
Yeah.
I got great feedback on it. As they said, it was tight, it was easy to follow.
Yeah.
They
And
realized some
providing,
things. It provided some
right.
value in how they're routing and triaging patients, and
And
um,
helps it to stay front of mind as well, I guess, because I was on a strategy call yesterday with a financial advisor, and they were talking about an older traditional book that they've written, and the uptake on it wasn't quite what they were hoping for, and it was big and like all of the problems of traditional books. So I was saying to him, because he was feeling a little bit dejected, the fact that hadn't a build it and they will come type thing, it hadn't quite worked out that way. So I was saying, you just got to remember that people are busy. I'm sure that if you interviewed each person that received a copy of it, they would absolutely tell you that they would love to read the book. So future Michael really wants to read the book. Past Michael really wants to have had it read. It's just current Michael doesn't have time to do it. So like, they really want to do it. They really want it to be done, but yeah, just don't have time. So that concise message that just takes the conversation one step further. It's just the beginning of a relationship.
you
That
got
is
it. You got it. And I'm so passionate about this profession and seeing it do well. And at the very least, what I'm hoping is that this just creates this sort of like link as people think of pain, they think, could physical therapy help it? The end,
right.
right? And so if that
Right.
facilitates a conversation with their doctor, or if we're talking about a doctor or other healthcare provider that's thinking about, okay, I have a patient in pain, somewhere they're starting to signal their brain, like, let me just keep this in the choice bank. Physical therapy is indicated. And then, if we're all working hard in our communities to position ourselves as experts in physical therapy, experts in movement science, that we're taking time to educate our communities and all those nice healthcare providers, they'll think more front of mind, like, you know what?
Yeah.
We know this group, or we know
That
this guy or this gal that they always seem to be talking about physical therapy, and they're physical therapists out there just sharing and educating. Why don't I reach out and see if they might be able to help? I've got this tough case I think might need physical therapy, not sure. And then we talk through it,
yeah.
and now we've got a relationship that might not have otherwise happened
Right.
if something like this isn't circulating out
And
there.
it's like you said, it's that starting point. The job of work of the book is done when it makes that first connection. It's not that the book is designed to sell someone and a client walks through the door. It's the start. And you can imagine a situation where, what would be an example? The Boston Marathon. I'm trying to think about where you are. The Boston Marathon. I'm sure that doctors get an increase in people with leg related issues as people who are suddenly training for the marathon. So sending something out, reminding them of the book that they've already received as a talking point, but then a very timely reminder of something that they might see. The relationship's always been established because of the book in the first place. Now there's a reminder, oh yeah, I did have a connection there, and this might be relevant. Join the dots and start the conversation.
You got it. My greatest desire would be, quite frankly, that, elevating everyone's awareness about physical therapy will push them in their communities to reach out to their local physical therapy place, that they have some confidence in and want to learn more about how it can help them.
Yeah,
Because we need to help society stay moving, to stay healthy,
right.
and we
Yeah,
got so to do that, physical therapy is just so important, right? We can figure out, why aren't you moving? Why aren't you being as active as you normally are? And let's see what we can do about that, right?
I remember in the UK so I moved across in 2018, so this is a bit of an old ad, but there were some stroke ads in the UK. The National Health Service was paying for some stroke related ads, and of course, now I'm going to prove that it didn't necessarily work entirely, because I can't remember exactly what the acronym was, but I think there was like 5 steps and there was an acronym for each of the 5 steps. And their ad campaign was helping people recognize the early stages. So it was something about you might not recognize that someone might be having a stroke, but you might not recognize it. Here are the 5 warning signs, like face dropping, slightly speech slurred,
Mm.
which mine sounds a bit slurred, but it's because I've got a cold still. It's not a stroke. And then their gait. So just the fact that it's raising awareness of some preventative steps rather than letting it get to a critical stage, there's the opportunity to do something early, which might mean that the outcome is faster, shorter, less painful, keeps the mobility longer, really just keeping that conversation going.
Right. And the cool part is it's saving people time and money. When they're thinking
Right.
of it, first step, should it be physical therapy? Could it be physical therapy? It's just amazing, integrating that in early in the intervention plan, what that's
Yeah.
doing to help people save time and money, in the
Yeah.
long run.
Um, so the book itself has gone through a couple of iterations. So this is something I wanted to drill into a little bit, because, as I say, a lot of the people that we've talked with recently, they've just recently released the book, so I haven't had time to kind of let it season and then get some feedback and pivot or position in a slightly different direction. For you guys, the original one was fast to get out there. It did the job of work. It was doing that great engagement. More recently, you mentioned moving the practice into the bigger group, taking more time to develop the business coaching side of things, and then positioning the book to support that goal a little bit more. I'm very keen. The one of the big differences that I try and share with people on the 90-minute book approach rather than the traditional publishing approach is that these books are designed to be living things. It's not like you've signed a deal and on a line that's dotted and it was knocked into a stone tablet and then you can never change it without either paying thousands of more dollars or however much time and effort to do it. It's a fast thing that can pivot. I always like that saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy, or like the
Yeah.
lean startup approach. Once it's out there, you get that feedback. So can you talk a little bit about this latest iteration and what the thought was behind tweaking it a little bit and how much change you made and what now is the purpose of it?
Yeah. So the idea now was, as I'm out there working with more private practices around the country, helping them, forward their goals and continue to grow and develop their practices confidently. it's still staying at the core, some of my passion, at the core, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a healer. I'm a physical therapist, and I'm staying current. And it's important to me that I'm still making contributions out into society with current information that's helpful. And then also, for all these other private practices out there, inspiring them to, pick up the book, feel good about that I'm out there as an ally here to help, but also maybe this helps them reflect on what their educational initiatives are in their communities, helps them with their conversations that maybe they're thinking about developing or even starting that they haven't already, and challenge them to kind of take a look at their active following and can they engage them further? Because, the fun part is when you've helped one patient at a time to do really well and improve their health and have an exceptional experience, they're an ambassador in their community, in their home,
Right.
their work, their neighborhood, and it just inspires people to help each other more. Look to see what we can do to help each other in this crazy fast world that we're in, right? And I'm thinking even about, you can't go anywhere now where you don't see people looking down at their device, right? So how do we help
Right.
people, remind them to get your eyes up, look around? Do you see
Right.
someone kind of crouched or posturally twisted, moving a little bit differently, nursing and compensating in some way? Then lend a hand and just reach and say, "Hey, are you okay? I noticed you're limping or moving a little with difficulty. What's going on?" And take an interest, be curious, and then ask my favorite question: have you tried physical therapy yet? Talk to your doctor, see if it could help. You
Yeah.
know, um,
Particularly, as you say, with an aging population, it's easy for people to mask injuries and brush them off. And um, again, growing up in kind of the UK healthcare system, which might not be the fastest around, but there's no direct charging for things, so people aren't reluctant to seek therapy because of costs, which obviously is a big deal over here in the US. So sharing with people that there might be it's not necessarily going to be an expensive fix, particularly if they catch it early. There might be some things that really really allow them the preventative steps that keeps things moving for longer. I think that's one of the big takeaways that I've taken from this, is that reminder that there is so much opportunity in the preventative care stage of things, and thinking of the body as a machine, just like you get your car serviced. It makes sense to kind of keep on top of things rather than, I don't know if it's the curse of youth. Like, you always imagine that you fall out of a tree when you're 10 years old and you bounce back up and carry on. You kind of miss a step at 40, and it's a little bit, you kind of
a
have
little
to think
different.
about it a little bit more.
Right. But it's appreciating and respecting that the body's changing, over time. And, any machine that we hold for a longer time, we're managing it differently through the years. I mean, the first time you
Right.
get your brand new car, you can be rough, you can get out there and just go. But then as the years go on, you're letting it warm up in the driveway before you go for a
Right.
trip. You're kind of mapping out the trip. How many miles is there? Is this really the car I should take for that? Right.
Right.
So as we evolve, we're evaluating, is this the activity that I should really be engaging in, or should I be modifying? Because we'd never tell people just stop moving or stop being active. We're just saying every 7 to 10 years, are you just reviewing what you're doing for activity and being honest about, kind of modifying some things. I mean, that's why professional athletes aren't staying in professional sports until they croak, right? They have a life cycle, and
Yeah.
we have certain life cycles for certain things. But it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you do it a little differently. Right. And so, and
Modification
so,
is
so the fun parallel for me now is helping private practices also realize that that's the mindset in their business as well. You know, be proactive in what you're doing to take really good care of your machine, your company, your business, so you can really deliver great care, great service, which is the reason why we get into this field in the first place. And then what are you doing to evolve and modify it over time? You just can't run the business the same way you did on day
right.
one. With each few years that goes by, we need to keep developing. We need to be modifying, adjusting, because we're adapting to the changing needs and also the changing landscape around us, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny, right? It's like I had this conversation with someone not long ago about change versus variety, and it's like change is
Right.
tough for some of us, even though we know the only thing that's constant is change.
Right.
But something about variety we're cool with. We like shaking it up a
There's
little bit every now
excitement.
and then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but how do we get the little best of both worlds and just keep evolving and keep trying to get a
and
little
the
bit better? That's really the fun and the goal. How,
and
how
that
do I get a little
nuance
bit
of
better?
right, that nuance of language as well. It's such an interesting observation. change versus variety, the two, what's actually happening could be described in either way, but understanding the language, which I guess comes back to the book in a certain way. It's the way that you position things within the book are going to resonate either more or less. So taking some time to think about that. And then in the practice as well, understanding that not everyone's going to resonate with things the same way that the physiotherapists might, because they're in it all the time.
That's right.
Again, with creating the books, we sometimes talk to people who've been in business for a number of years, but they're struggling to think about what should be included. And it's often a case that they're thinking too complex. Their equivalent when they're thinking about books in their industry is academic pieces or big traditional books written at a high level, because that's the kind of peer level that they're on, having been in the business for 10 years. But understanding that this is starting the conversation with Dave or Mary, who's looking at this subject for the very first time, bringing it back down to that kind of 101 friendly introduction level, that is meeting them where their conversation's going on. And it's easy for people to underestimate how valuable what they perceive as the basic information is, because for other people, that basic information is pretty advanced thinking.
You got it. Yeah. And there's the art, right, of what we're doing. We have art and science, right? And there's that art, that's that receptivity, like just being able to sort of sense and perceive and sort of feel what the people are that you're trying to help, serve, support, do really great by, it's like getting a vibe, and being able to to meet their needs. And I always like to say exceed their needs, knock their socks off, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you've got that opportunity and you've got the passion, it would be unfortunate if there were just some systemic things that stopped that from happening. Delivering the best service, but then having a email not going out or a billing thing fail or an appointment get missed. The fundamentals of the business, cracking that code, means that your passion for exceeding can really kind of shine in the best way.
That's right.
Super appreciated of your time. It's really exciting to have this conversation with someone who wrote a book a number of years ago and then see how it developed. Just as we're wrapping up, let's talk a little bit about the coaching that you're doing for other organizations and who it is that you're best helping. And I'm guessing that it's not just local in Rhode Island, it's practices anywhere.
That's right. I'm working with practices around the country. My company is called Nula Training Systems. It's a physical therapy, business coaching, and professional development firm. We're doing professional executive business coaching, but also have some workshops for some courses for team trainings, coming on site and spending a day with a business owner to work on their business and outline strategies and action plans so that they're exceeding their goals, and doing really any support that they're really needing. A lot of times business owners they're facing difficult decisions. They perceive they have some hidden dangers, or unachieved opportunities in their practice. They're trying to have a level of prediction, trying to gauge ahead, trying to make big decisions that also impact the future. Some are also trying to manage a growing and changing workforce, and trying to figure out, how do I just get everybody getting along, working together, supporting each other so we can support our communities. So, my services help with that, and always available for a discovery call for people to learn more.
And like we just talked about for the last 30 minutes or so, that breadth of experience and the opportunity to go into an organization as an outsider, as a kind of knowledgeable outsider, and just be able to give an opinion without the baggage, that has to be, I imagine, so valuable for people.
Thank you.
We'll make sure that there's links to the website in the show notes. So if people are interested, then definitely check out that. We'll make it as easy as possible to get through. The practice itself, what's the website for the practice if people are in the area?
NulaTrainingSystems.com. Invite everyone to reach out, and you can go to the contact page and sign up for a discovery call and a chance to get to know each other. And if anything, make a friend, but also to have some information, learn more about what we're doing.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again, Michael. It's been a real pleasure. It'd be interesting to catch up in another 6 or 7 months, now that the latest version of the book has just gone through an update on that one. So it'll be interesting to check back in and see how the the development practice is developing, and then and see what's happened over this year. So yeah, looking forward to checking back in.
Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. As I say, check out the show notes for links to Michael's stuff. And the cover is one of, I actually really like this cover. There was an early version of it that was on the version 1, but the latest version that has been updated to, it really shines. So really suggest jumping over to the Bookmore Show website and looking at the cover that's just over my shoulder. Okay, with that, thank you. And we'll catch everyone in the next one.